We welcome you to tonight's program. We are at present in the very sacred month on the Vedic calendar known as Kartik. The month of Kartik is especially favorable for spiritual practices. During the day, the time from 1 hour and 32 minutes before sunrise until sunrise is called the Brahma Muhurta. And that is the most auspicious time for spiritual practices during the daily cycle. And in the same way, during the yearly cycle, the month of Kartik is most favorable for spiritual practices. In the month of Kartik, or the month of Damodar, even a small performance of devotional service can bring a great result. Another name for the month of Kartik is Damodar, the month of Damodar. And Damodar is very attentive to his devotees. Even a small event in the life of a devotee is a big thing for Lord Damodar. So in the same way, even a small performance of devotional service in the month of Damodar is taken as a big thing and brings great results. Srila Prabhupada compared the month of Damodar to a sale in a store. Sometimes a store will have a sale, for 1 month, you can get the merchandise for 50% off. In other words, you get something much more valuable than the price you pay for it. So that's the month of Damodar. And of course, the strategy of the merchants is that they have a sale, especially when a new store opens, they have a sale to attract new customers. And their hope is that you'll become attached to the store, and even when the sale is over, you'll continue to patronize it. So the month of Damodar is a special encouragement to people to begin the practice of devotional service. And of course, the hope is that after they begin the practice or increase their practice, improve their practice, they'll continue even after the month of Damodar ends. Because in an ordinary transaction, if you give some money for a product, you have that much less money. You get the product, but you have that much less money. But in spiritual activities, the more energy you give to Krishna consciousness, the more energy Krishna gives you to do more service. So nobody loses in that transaction. Everyone gains. Within the month of Damodar, or Kartik, are many auspicious holy days, and 2 of them, or 3 of them, are coming up in the next week. And they will be celebrated here in the temple, and you all are invited. Tuesday is Diwali, or Deepavali, which commemorates the return of Lord Ramachandra to Ayodhya. I won't tell the whole story, but it is available in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in a summary form. And of course it's available in an expanded form in the Valmiki Ramayana. But to celebrate the return of Lord Ramchandra to Ayodhya, the residents lit the way and lit their homes with deeps, lamps, little lamps with oil and a wick and flame. So Deepavali, the festival of lamps, celebrates the return of Lord Ramachandra to Ayodhya, which was observed by the people at that time by lighting lamps to welcome him. The day after Deepavali is Govardhan Puja. Govardhan Puja is a most important festival. It commemorates the time about 5,000 years ago when Krishna was personally present on earth, and he observed Govardhan Puja. And we will speak more about Govardhan Puja in a few minutes. But that will be celebrated on Wednesday. But because we know many of you have responsibilities and commitments during the week, we will celebrate it again on Sunday. So this is really a special offer. Okay. There's 2 Govardhan Pujas in the same week. And then Saturday is also a very important day. It's the disappearance day of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He is the person who came from India to the West and brought this knowledge of Krishna, knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. He brought the holy name of Krishna. He established temples of Krishna. He introduced Krishna Prasad, vegetarian food offered to Krishna. And he inspired devotees to open restaurants where Krishna Prasad is served. And we have one here, Kalachanji's. In fact, he said that in the future, people will note that because of that Srila Prabhupada had introduced the manufacture of puris in the Western world. In fact, I first met the devotees in 1969. Srila Prabhupada actually came and delivered a talk at Brandeis University where I was a student. And the next day I went to the temple, and then every day I would go either to the temple or to wherever Srila Prabhupada and the devotees had a program. And after some time, the devotees gave me the privilege of doing some service in the kitchen. And in the kitchen, I saw a miracle take place. One devotee named Nandakishore Prabhu had these little round balls of dough, and he was rolling them into flat circles. and he would put them into this a wok with hot ghee, and these little flat discs of dough would puff up and become puris. And he was so excited, and I was also excited. It was like a miracle that out of this flat disc, this beautiful big, like a golden balloon made of wheat flour emerged. It definitely proved the existence of Krishna as God and the potency of devotional service. So, anyways, Saturday is Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. It is not an occasion for lamentation, as we feel when a loved one in the material world departs. Once I was with Srila Prabhupada in Surat, in Gujarat state in India, and it was his Guru Maharaj's disappearance day. And he commented that for a pure devotee of Krishna, there's no difference between his appearance and disappearance. Just like the rising and setting of the sun. The sunrise is beautiful and glorious, and the sunset is beautiful and glorious. And one of our other predecessors, spiritual masters, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, wrote one verse. He reasons ill who says that Vaishnavas die. Vaishnav means devotee of Krishna or Vishnu. He reasons ill who says that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still in sound. He actually composed this verse in honor of Namacharya Haridas Thakur, who was one of Lord Chaitanya's chief associates. He was born in a Muslim family, which shows that anyone, of any background, any birth, any culture, can take to Krishna consciousness and be elevated to the highest position. So Haridas Thakur was born in a Muslim family, and he was elevated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the position of Namacharya, the Acharya, the exemplar of the holy name. And he was glorified by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and the same could be said of any true Vaishnava, such as Srila Prabhupada. He reasons ill who says that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still in sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. So Srila Prabhupada is not dead and gone, he's still alive, and he's spreading the holy name around the world. He's inspiring devotees to accept the great treasure of the holy name and to chant the holy name. And he's inspiring devotees to give instruction and give help in the actual process of chanting the holy name in the proper way to get the full benefit. So Saturday is Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. But today we will focus a little on Govardhan Puja. I will read one verse and purport from Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the ripened fruit of the Vedic tree of knowledge. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations, Text 32. Gopayar Make Pratihate Vraja Viplavaya Deve Vivarshati Pasun Kripaya Rirakshu Darto Chilindram Iva Sapta Dinani Sapta Varsho Mahindram Anagagika Kare Shalilam. When the cowherd men of Vrindavan, under instruction of Krishna, stopped offering sacrifice to the heavenly king, Indra, the whole tract of land known as Vraja was threatened with being washed away by constant heavy rains for 7 days. Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy upon the inhabitants of Vraja, held up the hill known as Govardhan with one hand only, although he was only 7 years old. He did this to protect the animals from the onslaught of water. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Children play with an umbrella generally known as a frog's umbrella. And Lord Krishna, when he was only 7 years old, could snatch the great hill known as the Govardhan Parvat at Vrindavan and hold it for 7 days continuously with one hand, just to protect the animals and the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the wrath of Indra, the heavenly king, who had been denied sacrificial offerings by the inhabitants of Vrajabhumi. So traditionally, the residents of Vrajabhumi would offer worship to King Indra, who is the controller of rainfall. Just as within the state, there are so many departments, so many secretaries in charge of different departments. Like there's the, Department of State, Department of Treasury, Department of the Postal Department, Department of Health, Education and Welfare, Department of Agriculture, so many departments. So similarly, in the government of the universe, there are different departments. And some powerful living entity is placed in charge of each department. So Indra is in charge of rainfall, Varuna is in charge of the waters, Vayu is in charge of the wind, and there are also demigods in charge of different planets. Because like here we have like secretaries in charge of different departments of the country, and then there are governors who are in charge of different states. So, Surya is the demigod in charge of the sun. Chandra is the demigod in charge of the moon, and so on. But all of the demigods are servants of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is like the king, just like a king will appoint various ministers to take charge of different affairs of the state. But they all depend on the king for their authority. Similarly, the demigods, they all depend on Krishna for their authority. And they are not independent of Krishna. Even if someone worships a demigod to get some benefit, but the demigod is not empowered to offer any benefit to any worshipper without the sanction of Krishna. And therefore in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that the worship of demigods is avidipurvakam. The worship is ultimately meant for him, and that when it's offered to the demigods, it's avidipurvakam, which means it's offered in an improper way, in an irregular way. Krishna is compared to the root of a tree, and the demigods are compared to the branches and leaves of the tree. If you pour water on the root of the tree, you don't have to water the leaves and branches separately. In fact, watering the leaves and branches is useless, because that's not the way the plant absorbs water. It absorbs water through the root. So Krishna is the root. We serve Krishna, and by serving Krishna, automatically all the demigods and all living entities are satisfied. Srila Prabhupada continues in the purport, factually, there is no need of offering sacrifices to the demigods for their services if one is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Sacrifices recommended in the Vedic literature for the satisfaction of the demigods are a sort of inducement to the sacrificers to realize the existence of higher authorities. The demigods are engaged by the Lord as controlling deities of material affairs, and according to the Bhagavad Gita, when a demigod is worshipped, the process is accepted as the indirect method for worshipping the Supreme Lord. But when the Supreme Lord is worshipped directly, there is no need of worshipping the demigods or offering them sacrifices as recommended in particular circumstances. Lord Krishna therefore advised the inhabitants of Rajabhumi not to offer any sacrifices to the heavenly king Indra. But Indra, not knowing Lord Krishna in Rajabhumi, was angry at the inhabitants of Rajabhumi and tried to avenge the offense. But, competent as the Lord was, he saved the inhabitants and animals of Rajabhumi by his personal energy and proved definitely that anyone directly engaged as a devotee of the Supreme Lord need not satisfy any other demigods, however great, even to the level of Brahma or Shiva. Thus, this incident definitely proved without a doubt that Lord Krishna is the personality of Godhead, and that he was so in all circumstances, as a child on the lap of his mother, as a boy of 7 years, and as an old man of 125 years. In every case, he was never on the level of the ordinary man, and even in his advanced age he appeared like a young boy of 16. These are the particular features of the transcendental body of the Lord. So Lord Krishna Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the supreme controller. There's so many Ishwaras or controllers, but Krishna is the supreme of all of them. Brahma and Shiva are also Ishwaras, but Krishna is the supreme. And Satchidananda Vigraha has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. In the case of we conditioned souls, there's a difference between the soul and the body. The body is material and temporary, and the soul is spiritual and eternal. The hanyate hanyamane sarire. When the soul leaves the body, the soul continues to exist when the body dies. So the soul is our real identity. We are the soul, not the body. So an intelligent person should think, I'm not this temporary body, I'm the soul. What should I do as a soul? What is my future after I leave this body? And if we do not perfect our lives in Krishna consciousness, we'll have to take birth again in another physical body and suffer. Birth, disease, old age, and death, again and again and again. But if we become Krishna conscious and think of Krishna at the time of death, then Chatra Deham Purnarjanma Naiti Mameti, so Arjuna, then we don't have to take birth again in another miserable material body, but we go to Krishna. We go back home, back to God. So that is the program for the human form of life. And the residents of Rajabhumi, they had complete faith in Krishna. And when Krishna told them to use the paraphernalia of worship that they had collected for King Indra, to use it to worship Govardhan Hill and the Brahmins, they did so. And when Indra became angry, Krishna lifted the Govardhan Hill just like a child lifts a frog's umbrella. A mushroom. In other words, like frogs can take shelter under a mushroom, so like a frog's umbrella. So Krishna lifted this huge mountain. There's a picture here on the wall of Krishna lifting the Govardhan mountain with the little finger of his left hand when he was 7 years old. So that means he didn't have an ordinary material body like we have. You know, he was always the supreme Godhead, even at the age of 7. And he gave shelter to the residents of Vrindavan. And for those 7 days, they were in ecstasy because they got to be with Krishna all the time. During the ordinary course of events, they would be separated from Krishna at different times of the day. In the morning, Krishna would wake up, and his mother Yashoda and father Nanda and brother Balaram and the household servants and others would get to be with Krishna. But during the day, Krishna would go out to herd the cows with the cowherd boys, and then the people in the Vrindavan village would be separated from Krishna, and the cowherd boys would be with him. But then in the evening, when Krishna would come home, he would again enter his home with Nanda and Yashoda and be with them, and he would be separated from the cowherd boys. And then in the middle of the night, he would wake up and sneak out and be with the gopis. He would be with them. But all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan on a daily basis would experience meeting with Krishna for some time and being separated from Krishna. But during the Govardhan Leela, they were with Krishna continuously for 7 days. And so they were happier for those 7 days than ever. So the conclusion is that, one who worships Krishna, one who surrenders to Krishna is not the loser, but he's the gainer. Sometimes people are afraid that if they don't worship some demigod that's been worshipped by family tradition for generations, that their ancestors will be offended or the demigods will be offended. But here, Krishna showed that there's no need to worship any demigods if one is engaged directly in his service. Now, there's another verse later in Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto that describes Govardhan Hill as Haridasa Varya, as the best servant of Lord Hari, or Krishna. Because Govardhan Hill serves Lord Krishna and his devotees with his whole being, his whole body. With his caves, he gives them shelter when it's too hot or too cold. He provides fresh grasses for the cows and calves to eat. And he also provides another kind of grass that's used in Vedic sacrifices. He provides fresh streams, which the boys drink from. He provides rocks to serve as sitting places for them. With his body, he serves not only Krishna, but Krishna's cows and cowherd friends. And Srila Prabhupada comments that Govardhan Hill knew the secret how to please Krishna by serving his Goganayo, his cowherd friends and cows. In other words, his devotees. And in this service, Govardhan Hill was always jubilant. And that should be the mood of the servant in devotional service. He should be jubilant. He shouldn't complain, so much to do. I hardly get time to sleep at night. I hardly have time to take prasadam. I can't wait for this to be over. But it's described that Govardhan Hill was jubilant. Sometimes the question is asked, how could Govardhan Hill, which was just a medium-sized mountain, give shelter to the whole of Vraja? And the answer is that when Govardhan Hill was being lifted by the little finger of the left hand of Lord Krishna, he felt so much ecstasy that he expanded in size. That's one of the ecstatic symptoms, that one expands in size. And all of Govardhan's offerings are manifestations of his ecstasy. The grasses that he offers to the cows to eat are his hairs standing on end. And the water that trickles from his rocks are his tears of ecstasy. And it's described that even his stones, which should be very hard, because he's melted in ecstasy, his stones are as soft as butter. And therefore Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys can walk barefoot, but they never feel any pain at walking on Govardhan Hill. So whatever Govardhan Hill offers, and that it's his whole body, is an offering of ecstatic love, and he feels jubilant in his service. So Govardhan Hill is Krishna. We read in Srimad Bhagavatam in the Govardhan Leela that apart from the boy Krishna, who was leading the Brijbasis in Govardhan Puja, there was another huge form of Krishna that was accepting all the offerings. And he declared that he and Govardhan Hill are identical. So Govardhan Hill is actually Krishna. But he's Krishna, but in that prayer of the gopis, he's Haridasa Varya, the best servant of Krishna. And it is said that the mercy that one can get from a servant of Krishna is greater than the mercy one can get even from Krishna directly. And therefore the gopis, they approached Govardhan Hill as Haridas, as the servant of Krishna or the devotee of Krishna, thinking that they can get more mercy from him as a devotee than they can get from Krishna directly. And in that way, Govardhan Hill is like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also Krishna, but in the mood of a devotee. And in that mood of a devotee, he's even more merciful than he is in his original form as Krishna, although Krishna is also sublimely merciful. And today, maybe because we just completed our special Japa weekend, chanting the holy name on beads, I'm also thinking that we can take shelter of the holy name just like the residents of Vrindavan took shelter of Govardhan Hill. During ordinary course, as I mentioned, the elders of Vrindavan would be with Krishna in the morning and in the evening. But during the day, when he went to the pasturing grounds, they would be separated. And the gopis would be with Krishna in the middle of the night. But during the morning and evening, when he was at home, they would be separated from him. And the cowherd boys would be with Krishna during the day, when they would go to take the cows to pasture, but during the morning and night, they would be separated. But during the Govardhan Leela, they were all with Krishna continuously for 7 days, no separation. So in the same way, the holy name is available for us 24/7, as they say. We can take shelter of the holy name continuously for 24 hours a day. So 7 days a week, he's always available. And one devotee prayed, "My dear Lord," he prayed to the holy name, yeah. "My dear Lord, you are so merciful that in the form of your holy name you are my constant companion." And as we experienced during the Japa weekend, we can all be under the shelter of the holy name together. That was also the beauty of the Govardhan Leela, that people of different relationships, Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, Madhuryaras, who sometimes they're in their moods of service to Krishna, they don't mix with the other moods. It's natural. But during the Govardhan Leela, all the devotees, no matter what their mood of service to Krishna was, they were all united under Govardhan Hill, and they all had constant association with Krishna. So in the same way, we we can all take shelter of the holy name of Krishna constantly, anytime we want, continuously. And we can do it together. We can do it together. We might have little differences of moods in our service, different natures. But when it comes to taking shelter of the holy name, we're all united. So this society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Srila Prabhupada said he created it to give people the association of devotees. Because without the association of devotees, we cannot really practice Krishna consciousness. It's not possible to practice alone. We need the association. And the main practices are chanting and hearing. We do that together. One person speaks, the other person listens. And the other person speaks, and the first person listens. There's a reciprocation. So we need this association. Srila Prabhupada has provided the association through ISKCON, and we encourage you to come and take shelter of this association, which means ultimately taking shelter of the process of Krishna consciousness, which means ultimately taking shelter of Krishna in the form of his holy name, in the form of his deity, Shri Radha Kalachandji, in the form of his words in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the form of his devotees. So in this auspicious month of Kartik, when one's the returns on one's spiritual investments are multiplied. In the material world, the returns on one's investments are pretty uncertain, as we all know. But the investment we make in Krishna consciousness is sure. And the return on our investment will be an eternal life, full of bliss and knowledge with Krishna. And the benefit we get by rendering devotional service in the month of Kartik is multiplied, and it is sure. So we thank you for coming here this evening. We encourage you to come as often as possible. We open at 4:30 in the morning. That's the best time, Brahma Muhurta. And we stay open until 9 at night. And every evening during this month, we sing the 8 prayers to Damodar Astakam, and light lamps. Very beautiful ceremony. You feel like you're in the spiritual world. You're not in the material world. You're in the spiritual world with Radha and Krishna and their devotees. So please join us and stay with us. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Giriraj Swami ki jai.